Hi. So, a few days ago, I posted a video in which I had implemented a quest using custom NPCs just to go and experiment around with the mod. And since then, I've been experimenting a bit more with the mod, but now I've been having fun with the scripts portion of the mod. So, for those who don't know, there's a tool you can get from custom NPCs called the scripter, which I just use JI to get to. What you can do is that you can either right click to go and script for players, and I don't actually have anything working there right now, or you can go and um, right click on NPCs, which will get you into coding interface. Um, and so let's see, what was I doing here? I don't know. I think I was doing a test with this person for some initial scripting. But what I've been trying to go and see just how far I can go with the scripting, given that there are actually some restrictions on what I can do. So to begin with, uh, I have ECMA script installed here, but that's essentially it's JavaScript essentially, but I don't have access to all the libraries of JavaScript. And so one of the interesting things with that is that if there's some sort of functionality that doesn't exist within this limited subset of JavaScript, then I have to go and attempt to go and permit it myself. And so what I've done here is that I have attempted to create something to go and parse JavaScript or dictionaries and lists from a string. So to begin with, in order to test this, since JavaScript doesn't do a very good job at printing lists or dictionaries, I had to go create some simple two-string functions, which I have done. Um, uh, at some point, I'll probably go and nice this up a bit and create one that's unified for both dictionaries and lists. But for now, this works. Um, After that, I was able to go and see what output my program would give a bit more. This is, by the way, the message command, which directly sends the player a message, which is what I've been using for output. But after that, I was able to go and actually start working on parsing from the string. So to begin with, I made some checks. To begin with, I've tried to go make a recursive function that would go through a giant string or stringified dictionary or list, and turn it back and return a like full dictionary or list, depending on what type of string it was. So the thing, what I started to do, or what I did first to do this, or to start, is that first I handled my more primitive values. So numbers right here, and then string literals right here. And then next thing that I did was I checked that we actually had enough characters to have the minimum size dictionary or list string. So that's 2. So you can have your open bracket or open bracket close bracket. And then from there, I took an approach where I would advance along the string and get the next token to slowly build the dictionary or um, list, recursing on strings which were recursing on tokens which were smaller dictionaries or lists. And so I have call that there for dictionaries, and I call and I deal with token grabbing for lists over here. Dictionaries are slightly more complex, as I essentially have an ID and a value, which I need to worry about, but it's not too much more difficult. I actually wind up with two different variants of the token function. One, which was for general tokens, that was essentially for the ones that I would have to recurse on more. And then I have and then I have one which is for the IDs, since there are slightly different requirements for each one, although they're very similar functions. And if I spent a bit more work on this, I could probably combine these into a singular function. But for now, I'm keeping the same. But just to go and I guess start by showing you some examples. Going to start by showing just that that's probably fine. I'm going to start by showing that my toString function does in fact work. So testless one is this guy right here. We have a list with various elements, including a number, since JavaScript, a string, another list, and a small dictionary, which is going to be our first thing that I am going to go and have printed out. So first line will show you what the default toString print out, or sorry, within default toString within JavaScript. Where this line is what I essentially convert to a string, and essentially those are going to be the strings that I'm going to be using or that I'm going to be parsing. So in this case, you notice our default, we have certainly parts of the list, but you can't really tell how most of the list is organized. So you have the 0 help, 0, 1, 2, but you can't necessarily tell that this part over here is a list element within this list. And you also can't tell that this dictionary here, you can't tell what's actually in it. Whereas for my toString that I designed, first of all, it shows all brackets, and it also stringifies dictionaries. One other thing that I've done is to put in the quotation characters surrounding strings, and this is just going to help with my parsing process so that things are more uniform. This is, of course, only kind of, I guess, an approximation of the true JSON functions which I'm trying to replicate here, or sorry, the true the true, I guess, yeah, the true JSON type functions, which I'm trying to emulate. And so, does this. As I go continue down, next I'm going to go show you how this works for dictionary, where in this case, similar function, slightly different dictionary to string. They're actually mutually recursive if they need to be, or for cases where it matters. And so it's going over this basic list right here, where that, yeah, once again, first line, our dictionaries don't really display that well. Second line, we have it displayed nicely and cleanly in string form that we can actually read. And so now that we know that that stuff works, I'm not going to actually go over the code for that right now. Main point really is just at least for me, is the being able to get the dictionary from the string. But now we're going to go into actual tests with our parsing and seeing again. So since it's hard to just print out stuff normally, that is why we're using our toString, so we can actually read. And so just for our first test, with test list 1, we want to go and print out what are, print out, first of all, what test list 1 looks like on its own. Then we want to go and print out the list a string variant of test list 1. Then, just for the sake of comparison, we're going to go and print out our parsed test list 1. And last but not least, our parsed one with our toString function again. You should see that we have the first and third line should match up as they do, and the second and fourth line should match up. And so you should see that we have matching objects, which is good. And so essentially in terms of where this can go, start out with things I've just learned about scripting and why I actually kind of started with trying to make this in the first place. So when I started doing the scripting for this, I learned that the custom NPCs mod has very limited data storage, such that for longer term data storage, it's essentially all in string or number form, which means that I can't by default do a more complex data structure such as lists or dictionaries as we did here. And so I created this because I can essentially go, and as long as I have this function between different NPCs, I can go and load a JSON file from custom NPCs stored data from any NPC and get formatted data with the functions I've generated here or created here. And of course, once you have better data control, you can do more complex things. Like one example I think would be cool to do would be write kind of some sort of miniature language to make custom NPC scripting easier to work with, since it's not necessarily the simplest thing to learn. Documentation's not all there. I had a lot of help, or I had to help just starting from the custom NPCs scripting Discord, which I will link in this video. And so I think that could be a cool project to advance this. And of course, it can also be used for other things, because at this point, it's just essentially it's dictionaries wherever from wherever. And so, yeah, that was a fun little expedition in scripting. And if the environment were better, I could have probably done a bit better, but I'm happy with how this turned out for a short just exploration of custom NPCs scripting. So yeah, willing to go and answer any questions, not that I expect any here, I get on this. And have a nice day. Bye.